Okay, I know I haven't been uploading recently, but let me explain. This rebranding has been eating up most of my time, but don't worry, it moves swimmingly and it should be implemented as soon as you see this video. As for going AWOL, I did have an Overwatch 2 video ready to go because I somehow got picked for the beta, but the video sucked major ass and I hated everything that went into it, so I binned it. Probably wasn't as terrible as I initially thought, but I knew I could do better. Evidently, I'm dropping the weekly uploads thing, because every time I put myself on a schedule, I get into a cycle of trying to brainstorm what my next video is going to be, but then I get editor's block. Even when I do get an idea, the amount of editing that goes into it is usually never enough. Then I come up with a mediocre video that I didn't have any fun trying to process, so then it feels like I didn't put my best foot forward, which then adds more delays, and then makes me look lazy. So the schedule is going out the window. The videos will come out when they come out because I want them to be the best they can be without a constraint for rushing against the clock that I ultimately set for myself to fail imminently. This video is definitely a good one though, at least in my opinion, and from here on out my uploads will take longer to release, but they'll be much more concise and sufficiently edited where both me and you guys will be happy at the same time. I know it may seem like my channel is schizophrenic, but sooner or later it'll all be more consistent and it won't feel as tiring to keep up with. Here's to a better channel with better content. Now, on with the video. When you think Xbox, what comes to mind? Halo, Gears of War, Fable, Forza. Just a couple of Microsoft's many franchises that are iconic to their brand. But let's go back in time. Back to the launch of the first ever Xbox console. Among the variety of games, there was one that stood out from the rest. One game that was revered, but lost to time. That game is Fuzion Frenzy, and it is severely underrated. Probably the most underrated game of its kind. The art direction, the mini-games, the cast, the music. God damn this music. While fairly stripped down and overall lacking in substance, it makes up for it by giving us addicting, fast-paced, non-stop action. And that's really all you can ask for in a game like this. Sure, there's Mario Party, and don't get me wrong, those games are great too, but Fuzion Frenzy is for those who want to flip the table and just get right down to business. No boards, no dice, just good old-fashioned minigames, and people loved it. While many things ran my childhood, this game birthed it. But if it was so good, why isn't it as praised as so many other classics out there? Why aren't people talking about it as much as they used to? There was that one tweet from Xbox that jogged people's memories. It's even on Game Pass now as well. But like the game itself, it passed on, and I can't get to the reason why. The best I can make out of it is that Fuzion Frenzy might have just been a fad, a trend to be indulged in and forgotten about. The game did sell well, but it was already being put to rest, and its mediocre sequel definitely didn't do much to keep it fresh in everyone's minds. So it begs the question, could it be that Fuzion Frenzy isn't as good as I thought it was? Was I so blinded by nostalgia and childhood memories that I disregarded the ugly truth on the inside? Well, let's dive into the world of Fuzion Frenzy and find out. Fuzion Frenzy is a 4-player party game set in a futuristic city dominated by industrialism featuring 6 main characters, each with a different color so that the player can always acknowledge what's theirs and what isn't. Each of these characters also have distinct personalities from each other as well. A good thing about this game is that none of the characters are better than the other in terms of overall power and speed. Unless we're talking Samson and Dub. Samson just excels for no reason and Dub is major ass because literally everything he does is slow. Probably because of that damn backpack he has. Almost reminds me of that Alienware VR gear. He's such a chore to use, but I still play him. Because he's my favorite color. Each character more or less has a story to tell. The instruction booklet really doesn't dive into their backstories or anything. It's mostly just telling us about their aspirations and personality traits. Jet's is one of the more interesting descriptions because they mention her older sister entering into the games, yet her identity remains hidden. Nothing really groundbreaking, but it's nice to have nonetheless. Enough about the story though, let's get to the game. There are 2 modes, Minigame Frenzy and Tournament Mode. Minigame Frenzy is just a pick and choose, but Tournament Mode is the stuff real gamers are made of. You can choose between 2, 4, or 6 rounds. The tournament is set in a city split across 6 different districts. Across these districts, Fuzion Frenzy features 45 minigames with categories pertaining to the district of the city they're set in. First, you have Coliseum with rolling and ice car minigames, Downtown with firework and music minigames, Outlands with demolition and tail minigames, Military Base with pod and tank minigames, Power Station with hopper and splat minigames, and finally, Waterfront with jet boat and orb minigames. The announcer chooses 3 games randomly in each round in an alternating pattern. After the rounds of minigames are finished, we then get to the title minigame.
Fuzion Frenzy!
Succulent.
Which is basically just collecting or stealing orbs and tossing them into the appropriate goals. Orbs are the name of the game here, but what I like the most is that they incentivize you to try your best in minigames. I said previously that there's no board and dice, so ultimately you get to decide your fate and whether or not you become the victor. Because when you place first, second, or third, you win orbs, not only just being able to roll the dice first. And what's more, the amount of points can go all the way up to 150 at the start of the match. So it would be in your best interest to always come out on top. And who knows, maybe that head start will be the edge you need to scrape by your opponents. All of the points acquired through each district accumulate into one final score, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. That's tournament mode. Fairly simple, it doesn't take too long to complete, and considering the variety of minigames there are, it opens the door for replay value. Now what about the minigames themselves? Most are great, others are tedious, and some of them could be great but need some tweaking to become their best. To save your precious time, I have 4 categories to divide all these minigames in. Perfect, not my cup of tea, but otherwise okay, close to godliness, and should be deleted. The minigames that I consider to be perfect are games that do their job well, and lack any reason for changes or fixing. Those games are Blast Man Standing, Bomb Struck, Cooperation, Exterminator, Falling Star, Rebel Alliance, Jet Boat Sprint, Misguided Missiles, Odd One Out, Roller Ruckus, Tailblazer, Sumo, and Volt Vault. Each of these games do their archetype well, and are always a party no matter how many times I return to them. The games that aren't my cup of tea are Air Raid, Burning Fuse, Centrifugal Farce, Collector, Hockey, Knockout, Proportation, Momentum, and Watergate Scramble. These games don't really pique my interest, but if any of them are anyone's favorite, I can completely understand why. Now here are some games that could be perfect, but there are some wrinkles holding it back from touching greatness. Blast Off would be fun, but the rockets take too long to blast off. The minigame feels steamroll heavy, and it makes comebacks impossible, and even the strategy of stealing other players' rockets almost obsolete because the leaders always get to the goal first before it blasts off. Bumper Race's track needs to be a bit wider because opponents hit by the bombs cause complete gridlock. Mystery Beat is too much fun to be short, and I'm disappointed that they didn't take the make your own sequence idea and run with it. Remove Jetstream's timer to incentivize players to charge at each other rather than just milking the clock for the tie. Fake Panic should have the bugs spawn more consistently throughout each player's side of their goal. Pyrotechnician needs 3 key things: a way to drop kegs, extra hits to be knocked, and the opportunity to fight back while holding said kegs. Rhythm's criteria for excellence needs to be a bit more lenient, another point docked from Mystery Beat as it too has the same problem. Brood Food's issue is the same as Pain Panic's. Scratch Match after the first 2 tempo changes should just be non-stop random notes until there's only 1 player standing. Tank Tracks is Military Base's best minigame, but god damn, why does the speed boost last so long? Twisted System's jumping animation needs to be as short as the ducking animation because the bars after 100 points move too fast for you to jump unless you do it preemptively, but that's assuming you don't have to duck first in the sequence. And Tube Tremors needs better hit detections on the flying bugs because this angle is not it. All of these would easily fit into the perfect category if they implemented the changes, but otherwise I still consider them to be pretty up there in terms of quality. Finally, the games that need to get in the bin. Armored Antics is a perfect example of how much of a nuisance token-based games can be. Energy Ball is abysmal because it's just a stripped-down Fuzion Frenzy round, but if I were to give this game the benefit of the doubt, I'd say it desperately needed to be a team game like Cooperation. Rodeo is just Rebel Alliance made boring, Laser Snare has a Rodeo's problem, Money Pool is mundane, Pinball is too steamroller happy, and the stealing mechanic is alarmingly inconsistent, Space Tales lulls me to sleep, Special Delivery needs a speed boost, Tank Tangle makes me want to digest Bleach, but to get down to the root problem, I don't think there's anything more annoying than taking a trip around the arena dodging shots, only to see that you're losing by 100 points because someone was following closely behind you taking all of your territory right as you took it for yourself. But not only one someone, 3 someones. Yay, so much fun. And Victim? Yeah, I get some of you are probably sharpening your pitchforks right now, but let me explain. I didn't choose Victim because it's bad, it's because of how much slower it is compared to Odd One Out in terms of pacing due to the fact that you can't eliminate opponents early. It sucks because it doesn't push players to think about taking risks, making those last 5 seconds in the anxiety-inducing sound effective plays much less potent until the end. I'm happy it's here, I just think it's unnecessary. So upon review, not a bad selection of minigames, but since I'm complaining, let's get to some of the cons of Fuzion Frenzy itself. Sadly, the game isn't perfect, and it would be aggressively biased to say otherwise. One of the game's biggest missed opportunities is the lack of a versus toggle for both Minigame Frenzy and Tournament. Imagine Team Jetstream, Team Centrifugal Farce, or Team Tank Tracks. A lot of these games could be made a lot better if there was some sort of way for us to play them on teams. Cooperation is the only minigame that does that outside of Tournament, and that's only because it's the name of the game. And Team Tournament? Come on, that's just free potential sitting at the door. Of course, you can do it the ghetto way like me and my siblings used to do and just kept score after each round, but seeing you both on the win screen on the occasion that they do turn on versus mode for a minigame just hits different, and it sucks that it wasn't implemented. The combat could be a bit more fleshed out than just button mashing and hoping for the best, but considering that it's only used in a handful of minigames and it actually works okay for the Fuzion Frenzy round, it's small potatoes compared to the rest of my gripes. Another issue I have is specifically in the Fuzion Frenzy round. Now, I didn't speak about this before because unfortunately it's more of a problem than an innovation. Before you start the round, you can keep your orbs or bet them to aid you during the round. It's an option because all players start with orbs pertaining to their own color, which means only the player with that color can pick it up. The more you bet, the more you can reserve, but the size of your head start takes a hit in the process. Seems like a fun mechanic, but there's a huge problem. The colored orbs don't disappear, which would be fine if they didn't stop the other orbs from spawning. The player with the most colored orbs gambled into the round can sabotage the game with no repercussions. It's a heavily detrimental issue that could have been fixed easily by just making the colored orbs disappear after a set amount of time. Even the CPUs acknowledge the opportunity to sabotage. Speaking of CPUs, they're not a big problem, they're just inconsistent. One moment they're unbeatable, and the next they can't take it anymore. There really is no in-between. This one isn't really a con, it's just a preference thing, but legitimately just remove military base from the game. Other than Collector and Tank Tracks, I don't find any fun in collecting coins in excruciatingly slow vehicles that can get stopped every 15 seconds, or just taking orbs and running with them for a minute and a half. I do like the strategy aspect of some of the tank games, especially with reflecting your shells off of walls, but the pacing is considerably slower than its contemporaries and it stands out like a sore thumb. Also, the pod games are as miserable as anything. Collector is the only fun one because it doesn't involve grabbing an orb and just running away to different sides of the area, which is pretty much just the rest of the pod games anyways. Space Tales doesn't involve much thinking to win, just hold the fire button and run away until your orbs change color. Pod Hog is the same thing, except extra orbs don't spawn and they don't change color. Overall, military base feels like it's just there just to be there. I think it's lazy and unimaginative for the most part. I hated it back then, and I still hate it now. It's never a fun time when it's selected, and I wish it wasn't there in the first place. That's pretty much all my gripes with the game. What else is there? The music! Oh my god, the music! While the early 2010s revolutionized electronic music, specifically dubstep, Fuzion Frenzy is the grandfather, and you can't prove me wrong. None of that bro-steppy, super safe, bubble-wrapped wobble garbage we got nowadays. This is that real shit. The type of shit to use any types of sounds or cacophony it can and make either bangers or much more mellow tracks based on vibes. The theme song is beyond fitting. It's like the game was made for it. And Game Over is too short to be sweet. We need a full version, goddammit. Another thing is that each character has their own victory theme as well, but only at the end of Fuzion Frenzy rounds. My personal favorite is definitely Naomi's. The eerie flute carries it hard. Before we wrap it up, I want to talk about one last thing that doesn't ever get talked about whenever this game is brought up in conversation. The art direction and attention to detail. I appreciate this type of futuristic style that's still consistent with our modern day architecture. Abandoned subways with working trains and ghosted burger joints are infested with mutant insects due to the carelessness of humankind. In Paint Panic, the goals are electric fields just like the ones in real life that lure flies to their deaths. The docks are now controlled by robots and self-driving freighters. Concerts and fireworks shows are basically an everyday thing. Highways are more interconnected and cars go at a blazing speed. Construction sites are upgraded with drivable drills, robot mechs with wrecking balls, and remote-controlled bombs. I hate military bases guts, but look at the technology here. I might be reaching, but of course it's the most advanced out of all districts. It's where most of the government's time and money goes. Downtown's arena is a stadium literally equipped with giant speakers that eat your orbs. Power Station has turbines so big that they're entire minigames themselves. And what powers the power station? The Vault, that's what. And what's the one place where there are life-sized arcade games and also the only district where the crowd can watch the games in person? a coliseum where in the past they also competed in games? I've already mentioned Waterfront's docks, but did you know that they even got shopping malls here? But it's not just a shopping mall, it's a shopping mall underwater with sharks. Look at the weapons each character has. Dub has a guitar because he likes music, Samson has a bat because he's super athletic, Naomi uses a microphone because she's an entertainer. You get the idea. When you back out of the character you chose, their personalities show in their disappointment. Some just expect it, and others don't take it so well. While not related, I also want to mention the cute little referee bot that counts down. If you look closer, it's broadcasting the games to the outside world as seen by the blinking red light and the spinning satellite dish on its head. Just thought I should put that out there. They didn't go full technobabble, and I appreciate how the world feels tangible, almost like it could actually happen somewhere down the road. Although I would appreciate it if the insects would stay the size as they are now, please. But with all of this attention to detail and world building, I can't help but feel they're drawing a narrative here. The cryptic descriptions, the state of the city it's based in, there's an underlying story hidden somewhere in the world of Fuzion Frenzy. Who are the characters, and why are they so important? Who created the games? How many people competed? How did we get to the era we're in now? Do land animals still exist? Is there more outside of this city? We know almost nothing about it, and yet we want to know everything about it. But that shroud of ambiguity, the overall mysterious tone, are the things that make the backstory so interesting in the first place. The title of this video wasn't just a tagline. Fuzion Frenzy is as honest and to the point as it can get, but in terms of its story, it's better to leave the questions unanswered. I feel that the magic it has will be lost because no answer would be good enough to satisfy what is being asked. How deep Fuzion Frenzy goes is up to the player, which is how I think it should be. Even past all the fun and games, there's still things to sit and ponder about. It's not an overarching plotline or a dense story, it's just a little food for thought to spice up the experience and keep you coming back for more. To keep you analyzing and searching for more and more Easter eggs to complete whatever outlandish ideas you might have to put together the pieces. Almost like a new minigame within itself. While rough on some edges and past due for some patching up, Fuzion Frenzy is still the minigame speed demon we all remember that many years ago. It may have lost its fame, but the energy lives on. With top tier gameplay, heavy replay value, and some morsels of a deeper purpose here and there, it still stands against the test of time as one of the best party games made yet. And now that it's on Game Pass, I highly recommend that you give it a shot, especially if you have friends to play with. It's punchy, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's chaotic fun for everyone of all ages. There's absolutely no reason you shouldn't be playing this, so what are you waiting for? Decide whether to bank your skills or gamble them in
Fuzion Frenzy!
Whew, finally made it to the end. Yeah, this is a different format than my previous critique videos, but I didn't want to be that guy only talking negative about games I hate, so I wanted to give it a go at a game that holds near and dear to whatever's left of what doctors consider a heart. If you've made it this far and like what you see, don't forget to enroll into the Tempura clan by subbing and hitting the bell so that you don't miss out on my next video or stream. We're closing in on 100 members, and it would mean a hell of a lot if you support the push to my first milestone. Thank you so much for your time, and finally, have a spectacular rest of your day.